Don't miss the second annual TRC Street Kings event held at Palm Beach International Raceway, February 16th, 2019.
What's up, guys? It's Ross from That Racing Channel, and today we have a pretty special feature for you. Excited to show you this, the first ever SRT-4 ever featured on the channel. And here is the driver, Chris. How are you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming out.
Honored to be here, man.
And we're gonna take this thing around town. And first, let's start it up and get a little bit of a rev. Sounds good, man. Two-step work.
She does work. She does wonders, man.
All right, let's take her around town and have fun. All right, so we're here with Chris today and his 2005 SRT-4.
Woo!
Chris, we really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here and extremely honored to be the first SRT-4.
Yeah, that's right. You are the very first SRT-4 on the entire channel, so this is
man.
a pretty special video. So let's do it right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the car?
And where do I start? I purchased this car from a Dodge dealership back in 2008. Had 30,000 miles on it. And crazy thing is, I went to the dealership thinking I was going to buy just a daily, like a Corolla or some, you know, economy car. Saw this glistening flame red SRT-4 in the distance, and I was intrigued, and it kind of just spawned some originality and memories. And I went for a test drive. I threw second, and it cut me. The rest was history.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. When I took it for a test drive, these shift balls tend to pop off if you throw it hard, and I shift pretty hard, so I threw second, and the shift rod cut my finger, and the ball popped off. I'm like, oh, you're gonna play like that, and ended up taking it home, and it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Love the SRT-4 and the history that obviously this car represents. But it all definitely started back in February of 2003. I received the Mopar bug, and my buddy Oliver had just purchased an SRT-4. It was number 43 off the assembly plant. We went down to Miami to pick it up. He had temp tags. I was driving a Nissan SER Spec V at the time. I chased him down. I was like, hey, SRT-4, let's do a dig race. I knew he was gonna kick my ass. And we did a dig. He threw second, he was gone, pulled over, shot the shit, and the rest was history, man. I fell in love with that car, and back in my bachelor days when I used to do a lot of street racing, you know, he used to practically tear everything up on the street, and I just fell in love with that car.
After that one.
27 pounds is kind of hard to control.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, that's yeah, that was a little pucker factor line there.
Oh shit, there's second.
Felt the car sweeping the road like it was ice skating. That was fun. Very cool, man. Yeah, this is a badass car. Definitely TRC approved.
Definitely.
I have to hit him with the stamp. Bah, bah, bah. There it is. Man.
So then I moved to Florida back in 07. Met a buddy who actually had a turbo Dodge. If you guys are familiar with the old TDs, I had a Dodge Omni GLH. For you Moparians, GLH means goes like hell. so I ended up having a Shelby Lancer. He bought an SRT4 about a month later, and then I bought an SRT4 about a month after that. It was an amazing time, and yeah, I love this car so much I don't even know where to go.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's good to see somebody passionate about. You really don't see very many of these cars, especially, like I said, this is the first one on the channel.
Yep.
And I do remember some people making some comments when I told you that I was filming an SRT4 today. They just don't see them around anymore. It's kind of like one of those cars that you pass and you go, oh yeah, there's an SRT4,
yeah, well,
but it's very disregarded in the community.
Well, it's crazy because the community's changed a lot. When this car came out in 03 to 05, these cars were pretty dominant. They, you know, they ruled the streets. They took everything out, including those V8s, and you know, they were at the track religiously. And then the community kind of changed. You know, the value of the car depreciated, and a different demographic obtained the car. And you know, to each their own. I'm not into hella flush and all that camper stuff, but this car was meant to be on the track, and that's one thing that I've kept true to this car. I've made over 550 track passes to date, and you know, this car was my daily driver for 7.5 years. I drove 30,000 miles a year.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
so you put some wear and tear on this car.
Well, I bought it with 30,000. Now it has 265,000.
That's awesome, man.
Take a look at the odometer. I'm not lying. 265,000.
We'll have to show a shot of that later.
Yeah.
And
sure.
Stack of the passes of the slips
go.
that he has here is pretty interesting. These are all the times the car has ever ran, and that is dedication right there. If I've ever seen it.
Yeah, it's 550 track passes. You know, for the first few years, I kept it pretty reliable, around 300 horsepower. You know, like I said, 30,000 miles a year, but I still went to the track, and I probably went a good 50 to 100 times a year. And you know, back in the day, it was just simple bolt-ons, did nothing crazy. Ran 12s almost immediately after purchase, threw a wastegate on it and some radials. And I purchased another SRT. It was actually a 300 SRT8, and I took some of the stress off of this car. So I was like, okay, let's push it a little further. And we ended up going with a big wheel stock turbo. Turbo Bay Performance. They're down in Port Charlotte. It's one of my friends and personal sponsors. And we hit 11s. Dyno jet is right around 500 and 500. So 500 wheel torque, 500 horsepower. It's a pretty torquey turbo. It's not your traditional big turbo. Well, you know, it'll torque and then bottom out. It matches pretty good. So when it hits, it hits. So 24 PSI, she's around 460. 27 PSI, she's maxed out on the 1000cc injectors that I have on E85, and she puts down about 500, so she's good for now, but you know, I can't stop there. More to come.
Don't lose to a neon. That would be embarrassing.
comfortable.
Yep.
Definitely feel that torque matched up with the horsepower for sure.
I keep it right at 24 for the street because 27 pounds gets a little crazy. Last time I ran 27 pounds, it blew apart my fourth gear.
Oh
So,
man.
but that fourth gear has seen probably close to 8 years of torque. You know, the big wheel stock turbo that I had put down 460 foot-pounds of torque, and I probably had about 400 track passes with over 400 foot-pounds of torque on that fourth gear. So when it saw that extra 30 to 40 foot-pounds, it said, "No, peace out." Woo! So yeah, it's been crazy. And you know, at first people are like, "Yo, why don't you just go big turbo? You know, do all this and do that." I'm like, you know what? I actually want to drive my car. Every single one of my friends who had big turbo had big problems. So big turbo, big problems. So when I got a daily, I decided to really push it, and that's when I went big turbo. And what happened with the big turbo? Big problems. Went through about 3 cases. You know, blew apart fourth gear. I've had a couple issues, but overall, it's a race car, man. That's what happens. You break it, you build it, you repeat it, you know, and you just keep going. And personal best in this car on this turbo, 5855, is 10.40 at 138, and it's the second fastest 58 mil SRT4. You know, and you know, it's not a Honda. Honda's been around since freaking the 80s, 70s, and so they have a huge outpour. And you know, this car's a top 50 cars, number 37 fastest SRT4 in the country, where your average Honda, you have 50 in the 8s. You know, so I'm trying to attack fastest SRT4 in Florida. I'm coming after you, Ricardo, full throttle. You got 10.17, I'm gonna beat you. 10.16, the smaller turbo, buddy. Garage built too, daily driven. What?
Man, called out, man. Man, so the last few hits, you pumped it up to 27 pounds from, was it 24?
Yeah, no, it's crazy the difference 3 PSI makes.
Yeah, you can really feel it, man, especially in the back end of the car.
It just, third just lights them up, fourth gear, forget about it. It's, you know, I ran 10.9 at 132 on 24 PSI, and then I bumped it up to 27 and ran a 10.40 at 138. You know, I trapped damn near 108 in the 8th mile. This thing was nasty.
Yeah,
so
man.
It's a significant difference, but 30 PSI and more coming soon.
That's awesome. We'll have to keep an eye on this one.
Yeah, man.
I tell you, you're having a good time driving this thing. I'm having a good time in it.
It's not often that I do that, you know. I'm usually doing it all on the track. I'm like, whoa! But this feels so awesome.
You want to do one more real quick?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the watt box, two-step. Not so much two-step, more the watt box. And installed it about 3 or 4 years ago. Worked my way from 300 milliseconds all the way down to 125. Some crazy guys run 75 ms, but big shout out to Jay Embert and Full Throttle Performance Ricardo for getting me the watt box and other things. But the N2MD watt box is definitely an advantage with these cars, especially down the drag strip.
What kind of suspension's in the car?
All right, so suspension. You know, a lot of people will flame me for this, but I run the eBay Imusa fully adjustable coilovers. Got them on eBay. They actually have a really stiff spring rate, and they do pretty awesome with camber adjustment as well. I run Real Tune LCA solid metal bushings. That contributes to a lot of my good 60 foots, low 1.6s. I also run a BST trans brace, which keeps the motor nice and tight, along with the other motor mounts that I have not removed, and I refuse to because I want that motor nice and solid. I also have some Prothane lower control arm bushings, but that's pretty much it for suspension.
happy.
So the motor is a 8.5 to 1 compression. It's a mild increase in compression, obviously. It's CP pistons, Eagle rods. It's got a DCR strap kit and windage tray along with an oil pump. The head, for the most part, is stock, with the exception of Crowder Stage 1 cams and Modern Performance adjustable cam gears. Got to give a big shout out to my buddy Custom Matt Hammonds, because he is my right-hand man and crew chief with a lot of the modifications on my car. If it's something that I can't do, he's the go-to guy, and my SRT4 brother. For manifolds, we have a custom Matt Floyd tubular log. It was built in-house, along with a custom race dump, custom wastegate dump, and O2 pipe. I run a Tile MVR 44mm wastegate, along with a Tile 50mm old school blow-off valve. Hard pipes, every bolt-on you can think of.
Tires do you have on the car too?
Yeah, tires. So for the street, a lot of people are like, why do you run drag radials in the back? I'm like, they're not drag radials, dip. No, they are Toyo R88Rs proxies. They are 235/50. The cool thing about that size is it's the only size made with the 235/50 on a 15-inch wheel. So I got a little bit more width. It doesn't really help much with traction because I have absolutely none of it in first, second, depending on the boost level. None in third. Rotor slips for the wheels. And then on the track, I run MH Racemaster slicks, 24.5 by 8.5. And they're also on Rota slips as well. The backs, I run some skinny Weld Magnum 3.5-inch wheels that weigh 6.2 pounds. So I have a couple different setups. And I also have MH drag radials, but I took those off for the time being because I did rip apart my billet input shaft. So to save on the stock input shaft life, I went down to a 235/50 shorter tire. Want to be a little easier on the transmission. But 3 sponsors, obviously, that have had a huge hand in my build. A huge shout out to Matt Haynes of Turbo Bay Performance. You know, he makes one of the baddest big wheel stock turbos for the SRT4 platform, along with a lot of other platforms. He also made this turbo as well. Another shout out to my buddy Edgar Niebles of DSM Lights Tuned, responsible for the extraordinary tune in this car. And then also a huge shout out to SDK Motorsports, Luis Aguilar out of California. He's helped me a lot over the years with modifications. And also a huge shout out to my lady Ingrid. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be racing, but you know, you keep me domesticated. But yeah, a lot of people have helped me over the years, man. Modern Performance is a huge company in this community. Full Throttle Performance. And then we also have Craze Motorsports, Frank the Tank at Tank Industries, and of course Dent Doctor, Vincent, you're the man. And then a few other people that have had an awesome voice over the past 10 to 15 years. Big shout out to Neon Dan Martinez, Morgan Ricard, and Johnny Boost Ledford with the most beautiful OB on the planet.
Awesome, dude. By the way, well, Chris, it was awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking me on the ride.
It's fun,
and
man.
Yeah, it was a lot more fun than I thought. Really, when you carve out a vehicle like this and the weight to horsepower ratio comes into play, it's some magic. So
not many times where I take friends on a ride. Usually, you don't see any interior in here.
Right.
I throw the interior, take the kids to school, take the interior out, go to the track, run a 10-second pass.
So all purpose, man. You can park this thing and garage it, or you can take it to the track. That's the coolest part.
265,000 miles too.
Yeah, 265,000 miles on this one car right here.
Yep.
And you saw the track passes. So anyway, Chris, man, I appreciate it. Dude,
Yeah,
it was
buddy.
a killer ride, and thanks for taking me on it, and thanks for showing. This is the first, again, SRT4 on the channel, and it was a pleasure.
Street 1320, baby. Woo!